This is CBC Vancouver News.
Explosive new allegations of Chinese interference, this time in Vancouver's municipal elections.
If there is proof of this, I'd be as mad as hell as everyone else. But right now, there are a bunch of insinuations, and it's actually quite hurtful.
Fiery reaction from City Hall and the former mayor. And a 5-year-old with autism overdoses on prescription medication mistakenly given by the pharmacy.
We felt right away something was wrong. It was more than just a deep sleep, and we tried to rouse him and we couldn't.
His parents search for accountability. Plus, preparing reservoirs for the big one.
Building damage, some bridge damage, and even fires that we know that the water utility needs to be prepared.
The push to protect our water supply from natural disasters. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. Dan is away tonight. We begin with breaking news out of Prince George tonight. One man is dead following a police-involved shooting. The Independent Investigations Office is now investigating. RCMP say they responded to a call about a distraught man who was reportedly experiencing mental health crisis at the intersection of Highway 97 and Willowcale Road around 4:45 this afternoon. An interaction between a man and police resulted in the man being shot by the officer. He was pronounced dead a short time later. Highway 97 remains closed in both directions as the IIO investigates. Vehicles are at a standstill in the area. The RCMP say traffic delays may continue throughout the night. Over to Vancouver, where the mayor is defending his election win in response to questions about potential foreign interference in last fall's vote. Those questions are the result of a story by the Globe and Mail based on a January 2022 CSIS report the Globe says it's seen. Eva Yuguen-Senge breaks down the accusations and the fallout.
So to say that any one person or group, swung an election, I think it's kind of crazy.
In October, Ken Sim was elected in a landslide, becoming Canada's first Chinese-Canadian mayor.
We absolutely worked our butts off. We worked for 4 years. We had 19 candidates. We knocked on, 74,438 doors.
Now, 4 months later, he's answering questions about it after a report in the Globe and Mail. It says it's seen a January 2022 CSIS report which found that China's former consul wanted to help pro-Beijing politicians get elected to Vancouver City Council. Sim defeated the incumbent Kennedy Stewart in the following election by nearly 37,000 votes.
Vancouver voters have a clear choice.
Stewart says CSIS briefed him last May about possible municipal interference.
The suggestion was they wanted somebody else's mayor, that they were deeply unhappy with my, I had cut off all communications with the Consul General.
Today, Stewart was blunt.
So I don't think foreign interference caused my loss.
Critics of Beijing say it's not far-fetched the consul would have wanted to get rid of Stewart, who was pro-Taiwan.
So this kind of information definitely will affect a lot of Chinese descent voter, regardless where they're coming from.
Others say any evidence of interference should be made public.
Interfering with our elections is really an awful thing. And if it was really true, why haven't they charged somebody? Why haven't they expelled somebody?
As for Sim, he says he's being targeted because of his background.
If there is proof of this, I'd be as mad as hell as everyone else. But right now, there are a bunch of insinuations, and it's actually quite hurtful.
He says he hasn't had any conversations with the current Consul General of China in Vancouver. CBC News reached out to the consulate for comment, but did not get a response. Eva Yuguen-Senge, CBC News, Vancouver.
The Globe and Mail's reporting is stirring strong reaction in municipal politics and among Chinese Canadians, with some raising concerns of a potential racist backlash. And among the many questions, who is to blame? Some are frustrated the CSIS report is now circulating widely without an action plan to address it.
I'm not taking a side here, but I'm saying that if you're going to level these allegations and make these comments that have gone so widespread across the country, at least do something about it. You know, I would be very satisfied if they arrested somebody or they expelled somebody. Then we have some proof because obviously they're doing something. I have enough faith in the integrity of our system that would say that if somebody did something wrong, they're going to be punished for it. Well, so far right now, they're just throwing out comments.
The Hyatt Regency Vancouver has extended an apology after it was accused of anti-Indigenous racism for denying a cultural advisor with the BC Association of Aboriginal Friendship Centres access to the washroom 4 times in one night. The hotel's manager says the investigation concluded the employee in question was following overnight protocols by closing restrooms in unused areas of the hotel, redirecting the man to an open restroom. In a statement, the hotel says it deeply regrets that the cultural advisor with the BC Association of Aboriginal Friendship Centres felt discriminated against. It also writes that it is taking several steps, including retaining an advisor on Indigenous culture and issues and working with other organizations to learn how it can hire more Indigenous peoples. Police in Burnaby are investigating following the discovery of a body at a park. Earlier today, Burnaby RCMP found a deceased person at a structure fire. The body was located in this area of Southridge Drive and Burn Park Drive. Arson investigators and other plainclothes units are on the scene and currently investigating leading to the investigation. RCMP are releasing no additional details at this time. A BC family is speaking out tonight after a terrifying episode when their son, who was just 5 years old, his prescription medication related to his special needs turned out to be 14 times the recommended dose, and they had to find out that on their own. Bethany Lindsay shows what they went through and their calls for greater transparency.
Eli Wilson is autistic and doesn't speak.
Yeah, they're so cute.
Yeah, I love that one.
He also has a seizure disorder made worse by sleep deprivation. The drug clonidine helps him sleep through the night.
So I had just picked up a refill.
In February 2021, 5-year-old Eli took his first dose from a new bottle compounded by Goldstream Forbes Pharmacy in Victoria.
And about 20 minutes after he had it, he kind of fell asleep on his feet, which was very out of the ordinary.
The next morning, he slept in.
We felt right away something was wrong. It was more than just a deep sleep, and we tried to rouse him, and we couldn't.
Eli spent the day struggling to stay awake and spent the night in hospital. His parents paid a lab more than $5,000 to test the compound. It contained 14 times the prescribed dose.
I burst into tears.
Yeah.
The College of Pharmacists of BC agreed to investigate. That's how the Wilsons learned the pharmacy had no policies or procedures for compounding drugs, and there would be no punitive measures for the pharmacists, no public notification of what had happened.
It's completely swept under the rug.
Last week, the Health Professions Review Board upheld the college's decision, so the Wilsons decided to speak out.
I think it's important that people are aware, and so they can ask questions of their pharmacist and then make good decisions, for themselves.
The college didn't respond to requests for comment, and a lawyer for the pharmacists said they can't comment because of patient confidentiality. But she said staff training around safe and accurate dispensing of drugs is now in place at all Forbes pharmacies.
Eli is nearly 8 now and fully recovered, but he still needs clonidine.
Every time we do that, we hold our breath a little bit.
With each new bottle, they start with a tiny dose. Bethany Lindsay, CBC News, Vancouver.
The union representing bus drivers in the Eastern Fraser Valley tells CBC News a strike will begin Monday. QP 561 says drivers will reduce to essential handy-dart service only, barring any last-minute talks, which the union says is not currently expected. Hundreds gathered in Nanaimo today to demand increased public safety after a man was injured in an apparent act of vigilantism.
It's not our job as citizens to tell them how to solve these problems. We're the ones with the problems, and we have votes.
The rally comes after Nanaimo RCMP say the owner of a local mechanic shop was shot in the stomach trying to retrieve a stolen property from a homeless encampment. The man was one of 6 people who went into the encampment to recover stolen tools. Today, members of the business community called on political leaders to make change.
It's a terrible circumstance that brought people out, but it was almost inevitable. You cannot ignore 30, 40 years of failed social policy, health policy, and not expect that we get to this stage where people just get really frustrated. They don't feel safe.
Mounties, meanwhile, say they do not condone the group's actions, saying that risking life or injury over stolen property is, quote, not worth it. A large gathering earlier this evening near the Victoria Airport heard federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre speak about his tough on crime plan, referencing the shooting in Nanaimo over the weekend.
We are going to bring in bail reform, that if you have a long rap sheet of violent offenses and you're newly arrested for a serious crime, you stay behind bars until your trial is held and your sentence is complete. We're going to bring home safety.
Poilievre also made promises to address the opioid crisis, cost of living, and housing. Former Premier John Horgan and Health Minister Adrian Dix announced a new integrated healthcare centre in Sooke.
I think it's a model that doesn't just include the community health center and urgent primary care center, but all the other health services, home care and home support, mental health and substance use services, which are sometimes urgent and sometimes chronic support. Having all of those services together and adding services in one location, it makes a lot of sense.
The centre will open in 2025 and will have a team of family physicians, registered nurses, mental health and substance use workers as well. The new staff will supplement those already working at West Coast Family Medical Clinic. Despite this, there are concerns over staffing the facility as the province grapples with an ongoing shortage in doctors and nurses. Meanwhile, at the announcement, Horgan revealed his final day as MLA will be March 31st.
Yeah, I've been reluctant to accept that any kind words. I'm grateful for them, but it's the people. What an honor it's been to serve in a community that is totally committed to helping their neighbors. That's what Sooke's all about. And so it was a great place for me to start a public life.
Horgan is the longest-serving NDP premier in BC history. He was first elected in the riding of Wanda Fuka in 2005. After the devastating earthquakes in Turkey and Syria caused a shortage of clean water, local municipalities are now trying to get ahead of the problems earthquakes could cause to the water supply in this region, with scientists warning that BC could one day experience its own major quake. Yasmin Renea toured a water storage reservoir to learn more about what's being done.
This looks like an optical illusion.
This is the Pebble Hill Water Storage Reservoir in South Delta, almost 20 feet underground. It's clearly empty now, but when upgrades are completed, it will be filled up with millions of liters of drinking water, supplying water to local residents.
Well, the seismic upgrade at this reservoir consists of strengthening the roof, strengthening the connection between the roof and the walls, and then strengthening the walls themselves.
Important upgrades to boost the resiliency of the water supply ahead of a looming earthquake.
Well, we know the big one will come one day. And so with Metro Vancouver, we've been steadily upgrading our reservoirs since the 90s and our pump stations to prepare for that event, just to make sure to ensure that we can provide water to the region following the earthquake.
Turkey experienced a clean water shortage after its devastating earthquakes. Much of the region's sanitation infrastructure damaged, health authorities struggling to keep survivors disease-free. The Pebble Hill Reservoir has 3 cells. 2 are currently out of service getting upgrades, which are performed during the winter when there's lower demand for water. The 3rd cell is in service, providing water to the residents of the Tsawwassen area.
People do often walk by them without even realizing it, and sometimes they're even playing on top of them without realizing it. Often our reservoir rooftops have tennis courts or, in some cases, pickleball courts that the public utilizes.
There are about 26 reservoirs throughout the Lower Mainland, some older than others, and in need of different upgrades and repairs.
Well, each one would have to be assessed individually to determine their remaining lifespan. And that's what we do with every upgrade project, is we see which components need work just to extend the life.
New reservoirs are typically designed for a lifespan of 75 to 100 years. Metro Vancouver has been doing this work for decades and has conducted several studies about the impacts of a major earthquake.
We know that this is a seismically, vulnerable area. Any of our new infrastructure is always built to meet the current codes that are in place. But what we're looking at is the older infrastructure.
Upgrades to the Pebble Hill Reservoir will be completed by the summer, a step closer to preparing for the big one. Yasmin Raneya, CBC News, Delta.
Not knowing how well my legs were going to work after just receiving them a couple weeks ago.
A para snowboarder on Vancouver Island is celebrating a major victory again after competing for his second world title. That story's coming up. Thanks for joining our commercial-free live stream. A new maritime pro basketball league is set to launch next month, but one of the two PEI teams that were supposed to be a part of it has pulled out. As Steve Bruce reports, Summerside won't have a team when the league tips off.
This was the scene back in late 2021 as plans were announced for the new Eastern Canadian Basketball League, including two PEI rivals.
And I can't wait for that first game between Charlottetown Power and Summerside Slam, because I'm telling Basil Stewart right now, we're going to slam Summerside Slam.
But turns out no team will be slamming the Slam when the league launches next month. The owner of the league and its 7 teams was counting on a rental agreement with the city of Summerside to play games out of Credit Union Place. But the city decided in early February not to go ahead with it.
Made the decision to sort of...
Deputy CAO JP DeRosier says there just weren't enough details about the league worked out for the city to be confident it would launch on time and be a success.
One thing we're very fortunate for here in our market and our venue is that there's just insane demand for our facilities. So for us to be holding dates for something that may or may not come to fruition was becoming more and more challenging for our existing users. From an operational perspective, I mean, we still hadn't received an understanding of where the financing was going to come from, the sponsorships, even player housing. We know we're into a housing struggle in the province, and so finding housing for athletes was not going to be an easy feat.
Schedules for the 6 remaining teams, including Charlottetown's, were just finalized recently, and some players are still being recruited. Charlottetown's roster is only 2/3 full. The league's vice president says given this is year 1, that all makes sense.
A lot of it is first-year blues, right? I mean, you've got so many details to work out for the first season. We also had to wait for other leagues to wrap up to see what players would be available. I'm talking about mostly the European leagues. And again, a lot of it was availability of arenas. That's why the schedule was late being drawn up.
Charlottetown will play its games out of the Eastlink Centre. That rental agreement is just being finalized today. Tickets will go on sale next week.
We feel it's going to be a success. We had the storm here. Successful to a point, yes. But it's another offering for our clientele to come in, the fans of Prince Edward Island to be in the Eastlink Centre. There's no risk in it for us. We don't have anybody else in here at the time.
Officials in Summerside say they will keep an eye on how things go this season here in Charlottetown and around the league. And if all does go well, may look to join next year. Steve Bruce, CBC News, Charlottetown.
A para snowboarder from Campbell River is celebrating another major victory. Tyler Turner raced to gold in Spain, capturing his second world title in as many years in double leg amputee snowboard cross. As Karen Larson reports, being a world champion snowboarder is only part of Turner's unique story.
This part is just where I remove my other, my walking feet or my swimming feet or anything that I connect on.
Tyler Turner's new prosthetic snowboard foot came through at the Para World Championships in Spain, where he captured a second straight gold medal in snowboard cross.
Tyler Turner, landing gear down, he grabs the gold.
To go with the Paralympic Games gold he won a year ago in China. The latest victory is another instance of defying the odds because even Turner didn't expect it, having missed most of the season adjusting to new prosthetic legs.
Not knowing how well my legs were going to work after just receiving them a couple weeks ago, right before leaving to Europe. I didn't want to put too much pressure on myself.
Turner lost both legs in a skydiving accident 6 years ago. An avid snowboarder, he returned to the para side of the sport and now dominates his division.
Once I got over to Europe here, it just flipped a switch, and I see red when I start competing.
Being a champion snowboarder is only part of Turner's exciting life. He also competes in parasurfing, loves to skateboard, continues to teach skydiving, and in his spare time has taken up kite suit flying. Rounding out the thirst for adventure, last year he and his girlfriend sailed the boat they live on 4,000 nautical miles from Campbell River to Mexico.
It's like one side of the spectrum to the other because I'm either flying my wingsuit or I'm sitting watching a movie, and it's like I don't do a whole lot of in between. It's nothing in moderation, I like to say.
With such an interesting story, Turner is increasingly in demand as a speaker. Overcoming obstacles is an obvious part of his message, but he tries to steer clear of the easy cliches.
The biggest thing that I like to kind of put out there is that, it looks amazing on Instagram or the internet or whatever, but that's not the real story. And I would say the real story isn't sexy. It's actually, it's just grit, determination, put your head down.
As for his snowboard future, Turner hopes to keep the win streak going through to the 2026 Paralympics in Italy. Karen Larson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, now we take you to Dublin. This is a live shot of the Temple Bar neighborhood in Dublin, Ireland. The sun is just about to rise, or actually it has risen already on St. Paddy's Day, but it seems like the partygoers have yet to rise. Jules will have our full forecast coming up next to tell us if we're going to have a sunny or rainy St. Paddy's Day.
Today is escort training for the Vancouver Police Motorcycle Drill Team.
The most dangerous things going into the intersections, particularly the really busy intersections, and it's the job of the bike that goes into the intersection to make sure that everybody's completely stopped. See pedestrians wanting to walk across. There were jaywalkers back there. People just don't pay any attention to it. They just do whatever they want to. And the thing is when these bikes are going by like this, a pedestrian coming out from between the cars jaywalking is a really dangerous thing, because most of the time you're relying on the motorcycle that's taken the intersection to make sure that everybody's stopped there.
Well, you almost got caught up in that.
Yeah. I don't know. Whenever I see police coming at me for any reason, I just automatically assume that they're coming for me.
You can never anticipate what's going to happen next. At First and Clark here that we're coming up on, there's a stalled car up there. So it adds just an extra little dimension. There'll be cars backed up and you've got to get them cleared out of the way so the motorcade can make it straight through.
You guys are looking good there.
Is there any extra precautions taken for the kind of visitors like the President of the United States and Russia?
The different visitors have different levels of security and would have probably more cars in their motorcade with more security people in it.
Actually, it's the first time I've ever gone through red lights and not gotten a ticket. I never get away with it.
Broadway and Prince Edward locked.
Land Back is a CBC original podcast where we uncover land theft in Canada and look at how Indigenous people are taking it all back. Land Back is out now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. On March 30th, join Angela Starrett at the Alumni UBC webinar on Indigenous youth, nurturing the next generation. Hear from 3 Indigenous speakers who mentor Indigenous youth to share knowledge in their communities and beyond. Register at alumni.ubc.ca and never miss an episode of your favorite CBC drama or comedy with the free CBC Gem app. Check it out at gem.cbc.ca.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Well, Jules, it was another beautiful day today. Still had my layers on, of course.
Yeah, especially in the morning. It was cooler. We have temperatures a little bit below average, but what a beautiful day. Almost everywhere. The high pressure system is very efficient, but look at the picture I took this morning. I had a longer walk, and just to see the blue sky with a little bit of white, but we see a lot of snow on the mountain, so it's perfect for those who are still in spring break and want to go ski. We have the best of both worlds, rarely at this time of year, and sun and a lot of interesting things to watch for tomorrow morning. We still have the rain for up north and snow also for Whitehorse. Besides that, there's nothing to watch. We have the great effect of the high pressure system, even for the Alberta. We'll have probably at the end of the day a few clouds for Vancouver, Victoria, Nanaimo. Nothing very dangerous, but still the precipitation are connected to the northwest. Besides that, there's nothing to watch for tomorrow, maybe 2 to 3 millimeters, a few centimeters for Whitehorse. The temperatures are going to be a little bit higher for tomorrow, so it's going to feel completely different on this, under the sun, with 12 to maybe 15 degrees for Abbotsford. The further you go from the ocean, it's going to be warmer for tomorrow. A little bit more cloudy at the end of the day for Vancouver Island. Very beautiful day for the Okanagan with 10 to 11 degrees. Well, a bit more cloud at the end of the day for the south of the Rockies, but still the temperatures are rising in that area. Finally, a little bit more sun for Terrace and Prince George. We're going to keep the clouds most of the day for Whitehorse for tomorrow. In the next few days, we're going to have a beautiful beginning of the weekend. At the end of the day, we'll have a little bit more cloud. Few showers for Sunday and Monday. Temperatures are rising to 12 to 13, maybe more also for the Fraser Valley. The tendency is really nice, and we have spring officially on Monday.
Well, it wouldn't be spring with the little showers, right, Jules?
Typical.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
That is your late news for Thursday night. Thank you so much for watching. For news anytime, visit our website, cbc.ca/bc. Have a great night.